has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in front. And now the 93, 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's been a race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go. As you love it,
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big jump for first place. The road to $10,000 runs through the Richmond International Raceway. This is round number 14 of 17 on the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing, and our final short track of the season at Richmond International Raceway. This one is sure to bring us a little bit of excitement as we go through 200 laps here this evening. Tim Terry and Tony Stevens here to call all the action for you. And Tony, this one is going to be exciting. We've seen races here that have gone caution-free. We've seen races here that have been, well, needless to say, a little bit messy. Not sure what this one's going to bring, but nevertheless, we have a championship battle heading in here. Conti can inch his way a little bit closer tonight if he finishes near the top.
Just pick it up if he's not there.
You're So as Tony gets the right...
Tim, you're exactly right.
There we go.
It is critical for Mike Conti to end up avoiding this bullet, basically, because Darlington and Richmond are 2 of the unknowns in the season so far. And Homestead, of course, well, that one could be a wild card where anything can happen, and it's always good to have a little bit of buffer going in to the season finale. And I think tonight, though, Mike Conti is probably going to be pretty good because he's been good all season long, and he's been good here in the past.
Let's pop those point standings up now before we do go racing in about 10 minutes time. And you look at Mike Conti, 451 points. Ray Alfala, 451 to 426. Ottinger, 10 points behind Ray Alfala. And when you look at those top 3, and you can even include Chad Lawton in there. Lawton has 403 on the season. He sits 48 points behind, and that's a full race between first and fourth. There's no extra drops at the end of this season. All the drops, all the mulligans per se have taken place. Everything that you accumulate now is going to go towards your total. Let's call it a 4-horse race. We saw Tyler Hudson last year in 3 races make up essentially a race, Tony, and win this thing. So it can be done, but it's going to be a long road to hoe, especially with Mike Conti performing as he has all season long.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tim. It's going to be a hard road to hoe. However, we said that this time last year with Tyler Hudson and Ray Alfala. Ray faltered, stumbled, and then ultimately, blew his chances with a couple of horrific runs towards the end of the year at Dover and Kansas. And that was something Tyler Hudson, I don't think, ever envisioned happening. It did, and then when it came down to on-track performance at Homestead, Tyler Hudson was able to edge out Ray Alfala. But Mike Conti's lead right now is not quite as comfortable as Alfala's is. And I think that means Conti, A, having the knowledge of last season, knowing what happened to Tyler and Ray, and B, not having that big of a cushion to where he knows if one thing happens, it's a whole different race. I don't think we'll see that, at least not yet, here at Richmond.
And then you got a couple of guys that are sitting outside that top 4. You look at a guy like Chris Overland or Jake Sturgis. Yes, maybe not in the championship talk, but if they do have a few good runs here to close off this season, could very well move themselves up a little bit in the standings. And when you look at the standings behind the top 10, that top 20 gap, that's the mark to knock yourself in or lock yourself into the season for next 2015. It's a logjam, Tony. You have PJ Sturgis, who moved up into that spot after last week's race. He's got a 7-point cushion on Peter Bennett. Trey Eidson's back there. Rob Ackley's back there. Landon Harrison. They're all looking to get a couple of good runs here and try to put themselves up in the top 20. But then you've got a logjam between 20th place all the way up to, let's say, 10th place. It's only 37 points. So all those guys that are in the top 20, yes, you're in the top 20. Yes, you're trying to lock yourself into next year. You also have to perform to get there.
Yeah, you really do. It's harder, I think, when you're back in the field like that, Tim, because those guys don't typically run front of the pack. And I don't mean that as a diss on them, but they're 20th in points for a reason, quite frankly. So it's a lot harder to make up points 1 and 2 at a time. It's a lot easier to lose them 15 and 20 at a time than, say, the guys up front who are consistently getting those big point totals week after week after week. So that battle for 20th to stay in the series is certainly going to be a fierce one, and something I think that might take a hit for some of those contenders here at Richmond.
For those that are tuning in for the first time this evening, yes, we are running the day track. We're not running the night version of the Richmond International Raceway, so the lights won't need to be used. Clear 86 degrees, southwest wind at 3 miles an hour, and relative humidity at 38%. So little bit different compared to what we're used to, Tony, when we see a race at the Richmond International Raceway. But nevertheless, this is the cards that they have been dealt, and they've been practicing for the last week and a half or 2 weeks or so since our last race. And a lot of these drivers put in the time and everything else into this. So it looks like these cars, at least from what I'm seeing in the practice session, seem to be handling a little bit, see a couple of loose cars out there, but everybody seems to be handling this racetrack fairly well.
They do, Tim, and it's one of those deals. This car has so much added downforce from when we saw it here 1 year ago. That's going to help. Now, some guys are going to try to push that limit of front downforce to keep the front tires pinned, to try to keep as much grip in the car as they possibly can, knowing that the car generally, not always, but generally tends to tighten up as the race goes on. So you got to find that edge. You got to make sure you can hang on to it. And if you can't, well, guess what? Then you're just out of luck, and you're going to end up either in the back or in the fence, one of the two.
And the last time we were at a short track per se, the New Hampshire Motor Speedway 1 mile racetrack, we saw a very exciting finish between Matt Busa and Alex Warren. And Tony, I know you weren't there. I was off that weekend as well. Joe and Nim called that race, but it was to the line, and those guys were pretty much trying to take each other out to get the win. I don't know if they've remembered any of that, but short track always can bring out some tempers. They start second and third tonight, so they were good at New Hampshire. They might be some to watch here this evening as well. Adam Gilliland, Cody Bias qualified within the top 10, and Rob Ackley, one of those drivers that needs that good run to lock himself into the top 20, Tony, sits 11th.
Starting in a good spot helps a lot here at Richmond, Tim, because it is so hard to pass sometimes, and a lot of the chaos happens towards the middle of the field. You see Ray Alfala, you see his new paint scheme. He's going to be starting at the front of the field, but some of these guys a little bit further back, in particular, Michael Conti, 14th. That's right in the middle of the hornet's nest. Do not be surprised if he is on like a house of fire at the beginning of the race, trying to move forward and trying to get himself out of that trouble area, Tim.
We saw it with Chad Lawton 2 weeks ago where he started middle of the pack, and he lost a little bit of ground when all was said and done at the end of the race. So keep a half eye on Conti, keep a half eye on Alfala, Ottinger, and Lawton, who do start within the top 7 in this race. We're going to step away for just a brief moment, get a couple of words from our series sponsor, Peak, and we'll be back in just a few moments' time to bring you the starting grid for this evening's race, round number 14 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series at Richmond.
What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.
This is where it gets difficult. This is where your name's on the line, everything's on the line. You get that one chance to go out there and put down your best performance with the most amount of pressure.
You got to take this race car, this whole new group of people, go to the racetrack, somehow impress them, and oh, by the way, you got to do it now. It's now or never.
The first thing that went through my mind was like, no way just be real important to try to figure out how to keep the tires under him and run a smart 150 laps.
They might bump him around a little bit, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Everybody should enter next year's contest because you never know what could happen, man. You can come out here and run top 5 in your first K&N West race. So I'm so psyched right now. This is incredible.
NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing, round number 14 at the Richmond International Raceway will bring you the starting lineup for this evening's racing action, and it's Ray Alfalla on the pole with a 21.61 to his outside the 34. He's come close a couple of times, Tony. Matt Busa in the 34.
Come close tonight might be the night. Another driver. It's unexpectedly in the top 5 tonight. That's the 82 of Alex Warren. He is going to start third, and no surprise here, Nick Ottinger on the outside of row number 2.
It's all Cody Bias racing in row number 3. Adam Gilliland has won a Pro Series race here before he starts in 5th to the outside 27, Cody Bias.
Chad Lawton, who is kind of on the outside looking in of the championship picture. He is 7th, and flanking him is the 39 of Michael J. Johnson.
Completing your top 10 is the 93 of Byron Daly. To his outside, another Cody Bias racing driver, Justin Bolton.
Rob Ackley, as we mentioned, starts 11th. Chris Overland, the 47 car, will roll off P12.
We'll talk more about this race car a little bit later on. It's the Segpay Ford Fusion, number 32, Danny Hansen. To the outside, his teammate, Michael Conti.
Jake Sturgis, good run for him, and the other Sturgis, PJ, all make up row number 8.
We got Brandon Bowie on the inside of the next row, 54 to the outside, Brandon Hoff.
Brad Mahar starts 19th, and Brian Blackford, injuries and all, what an inspiration. He will roll off 20th.
21st will be Stephen Gilbert. To the outside, the 16, Thomas Lewandowski, looking for another win this season.
Trey Eidson, the former Legends car driver, he is in 23rd. And Alex Scribner, the 50 car out of the Gale Force Racing Stables, it starts 24th.
21st in points. Peter Bennett needs to go this evening. He starts 25th to the outside, Brandon Hawk.
Brandon Schmidt in the number 3 machine. He'll pilot it from position 27. And Mooresville, North Carolina's Mitchell Hunt, big bobble in his qualifying lap, relegates him to a 28th starting spot.
In provisional land, it's the 55 of Brian Schoenberg and Brandon Chaburko.
Landon Harrison back there as well in the 31st spot. Brad Davies, we saw him last week charge through the field in the 11 car. He starts tonight 32nd.
33rd is Brian Day, and Tyler Laughlin completes row number 17.
And final row on the evening of the 36 car starting field, Brandon Kittel and Rich Doucette. That will make up the final and 18th row here at Richmond, and what promises to be a very exciting race. The only question is, will any of those Brad Keselowski Racing affiliated teams put a Brad Keselowski style hurting on this field tonight, Tim?
Well, you have to look back to the one of Rich Doucette, who's starting in 36th, and I don't see Kenny Humpy here, and I don't see Kevin King here. So if they want to put a hurting on the field, Tony, Rich Doucette is going to have to come from the last place position on this field, and it's going to be a long row, but I'm pretty sure Rich Doucette knows how to get to the front of one of these fields. We're getting ready to go green here for round number 14 to 17 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. Glad you could be with us here on PSR TV, iRacing Live, and all of our affiliates. Pace car in, and Ray Alfalla getting ready to go green. Hammer down, and what a start by the 2. He is gone. Green flag flies. Matt Busa in second, 3 wide for third.
Oh, Yowgers, watch him off the turn number 1. I don't think it was so much as of a good start by Alfalla as much as it was a horrific start by the 82 of Alex Warren. He's already back to about 5th, now maybe 6th spot. He's under fire from Chad Lawton. Warren not going anywhere but backwards here on lap number 1, Tim.
Yeah, all the way back, the 93, the 27, trying to play chase now, and Alex trying to stop the bleeding, coming down in front of his teammate there, Cody Bias, trying to make sure that he doesn't lose any more positions. Back to 6th the last time by, and here comes the Hornet's Nest as well, the 27 of Bias, trying to hold off the rest of this field behind him, trying to find a spot in the line and ride here.
And Tim, this is part of the problem you run into at a place like Richmond. Drivers tend to want to get into a rhythm no matter where you're at, be it here at Richmond, Daytona, Sears Point, wherever it is, you want to get into a rhythm and take a few laps to feel out your race car and just mentally get your wits about you, get your bearings, and know where you're at, who's around you, and what you've got underneath you to race with. When you're in a place like Richmond, it's tight, it's small, there's really not a lot of chance to relax, and already Alex Warren's been, well, he's been buffeted around a little bit, and you know, maybe his wits are not quite what they were, but it looks like finally he's got himself sorted out, back in the 6th spot, riding along. Cody Bias is pulled out, and now most of the field, for that matter, single file. The exception, however, is way back at 16. That's our championship leader in the 5 car, Mike Conti. Now he finally finds us in line.
Yeah, he's lost ground from where he started. The 54, Brandon Bowie, just behind him, may have stacked up the field a little bit. A couple of positions behind him. It looks like Brad Mahara is under fire as he goes underneath the 23 of Brandon Hoff for a position. But meanwhile, up in front of them, pretty status quo, Tony. These guys trying to find a spot in the line and run a few laps. And we haven't seen a caution flag in a little while in this series, and I'm going to touch on the wood here. But these guys seem to be having that respect level, I guess, Tony, in between those drivers to maybe not run each other as hard as Stephen Gilbert gets under the 23 back there. I think that's the first side-by-side battle at 19.
Yeah, further back in the field, like we talked about, that's where the Hornets' nest is. Steve Gilbert, Brandon Hoff, all back there in the middle of that. Trey Eidson, Thomas Lewandowski, who was the winner at Atlanta the last time out. And like you said, Tim, we haven't seen a caution flag in a while, and it's been one race and then some, because Atlanta went 100% caution-free.
And when you look at this series at Richmond, the Pro Series has run races here where there has been no cautions in 200 laps. You look at some of these races here in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series, we've had some races where we've had 1 or 2 cautions, and we've had some races that had been, well, let's call a spade a spade. There's been a few caution flags in those events. So top 10 or so, single file, looks like they've got it working. PJ Sturgis is right up on the back bumper of the 32. And Tony, I know you talked to Garrett Smithley a little bit earlier on. Let's talk about the 32 car for a little bit while we have a moment. That's the Segpay car, and a little bit of a new formation between Garrett Smithley Racing and Danny Hansen.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago at Atlanta when that announcement was made. Had a chance to talk with Garrett a little bit more about, number one, what the plan is, and number two, what this company does. Essentially, he has gotten Segpay hooked on with his organization, and they've got a partnership together where they're going to work to help get Segpay more business associations, and that's kind of the simple way to put it. And if you're curious what Segpay is, think of it like a Google Wallet or a PayPal or something, kind of geared more towards businesses. And it's a smaller company. They're looking to grow and expand what they do, but it's really cool because from the sounds of it, they're trying to get them involved with iRacing, involved with some of the other businesses around the iRacing community, and just start to get their name out there and find themselves some more partnerships. And the thing that I really like about Segpay, it used to be a long time ago, Tim, you would go to the bank and have a personal relationship with somebody, you know, your banker, your teller, whoever that is. Anymore with PayPal and some of these others out there, they're nice, they're convenient, and that's great. And Segpay offers all the same stuff, but they're really big on the personal relationship. So if you have an issue, instead of some random email coming back, it's going to be a real person that you get to talk to when you have a relationship on the business side with Segpay. And to me, I think that's something that, as a society, we really, really need. It's really cool to see them trying to take something that's so technological and so automated, but also put that human touch onto it.
5 car, Mike Conti's trying to pick up a couple of, I don't know about paychecks, Tony, but he's trying to cash in on $10,000 this season. Just past Jake Sturgis for a spot, and he's going to close up on PJ Sturgis and the Segpay Ford, who is his teammate this season, Tony, in Danny Hansen. So it looks like these drivers have got it figured out as the Segpay car goes up the racetrack. Danny Hansen will lose 1, and he may lose 1 more to Mike Conti. Ray Alfala has company. Top 4 are there, and Matt Busa, Nick Ottinger, looks like they've done their homework. Adam Gilliland as well has done his. Here comes Busa looking to the inside of Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala not able, well, able to hold on to it for now, but not able to really fend off Busa more than just a few feet. And it's just something kind of uncharacteristic of Ray Alfala to see him falling back as it clutches the field this quickly into a run, Tim. He tends to jump out, and when he does jump out, it's hard to reel him in. And as soon as I say that, now the gap is up to a car length and a half. I'm starting to wonder now if maybe Alfala is playing with Busa and Ottinger just enough to save his equipment for late in the run.
Talked about these races going green. That might very well be what it is, as he's backed up not only the top 4, but Chad Lawton closing in, Alex Ward, Cody Bias. They're all closing in as well. 1.2 seconds between first and 7th place right now. So there is a lot to make one mistake. You're going to go backwards a fair ways here. But you look at Busa and Ottinger, got some teammates there. You got Adam Gilliland, Alex Warren, Cody Bias from Cody Bias Racing. You got a couple of teams up here that it looks like this week, Tony, have really done their homework, at least early in the race, albeit we are 19 laps into the race. Looks like they've done their homework because those teams seem to be up in front.
They are, Tim. And you talk about it being early in the race, and that's really the key here. At a place like Richmond, where it is so much slower than, say, an Atlanta or Chicago or Darlington, a driver can carry the car for much longer and much more substantially upon his own shoulders until eventually something has to give up, whether that's the setup itself and the balance, or ultimately if the balance is off, it's the tires. A driver can make up for that to some extent, but you cannot make up for it over the course of a long run. If the car is ill handling, at some point it's going to show itself, and that might be something we look at in the next 20 or 30 laps. 20 laps at Richmond really isn't a whole lot when you've got a 200-lap race. You're only 10% of the way through the evening, and you could easily go, Tim, 100, 110 laps on fuel. So this might even be a one pit stop race, which again lends me to believe, as we talked about earlier, that maybe Alfala is saving something, while it looks like Matt Busa, looking very, very racy, might be starting to use some of his stuff up.
Joe Cortez is not here this evening, Tony, so we can't embark on him for wise pit wisdom.
Well, this is true. After 2 weeks ago, his wise pit wisdom, well, never mind, we won't go there. Just know I won the bet.
And right now, Ray Alfala currently leading the bet on the racetrack, 23 laps completed, and occupies the lead, but that 5, 6, and 7th place have closed in, and actually Michael J. Johnson's getting a little bit closer as well. So either Ray Alfala is saving something and backing up the field, or the car is not good right now, and Busa is sitting there and possibly waiting for something to happen, because Ray Alfala is starting to get a freight train behind him.
He is, Tim. The thing I'm noticing about Ray Alfala, that car doesn't seem to be getting off the yellow line. It's almost like Ray is just at will, letting the car roll through the center, slowly picking up the gas. He's not using up a lot of racetrack, at least not as much as Busa is. And that tells me that car is handling a lot better, I think, than those around him. He's just simply running his race, letting everybody else chase him, and he's putting just enough effort in to hold on to the top spot.
And I'm sure it might be a little bit of false hope for some of those guys back there, because you look at Michael J. Johnson, he's going to be a part of this battle momentarily, Justin Bolton closing in, and then you got the teammate of Ray Alfala, who's currently leading, Byron Daly, with Chris Overland and Rob Ackley back there as well, and Overland hounding the 93 right now for position number 10 as they come out of corner number 2, the 47. It looks like he's content to ride there right now, but might be trying something here in the next couple laps. If I know Chris Overland, I haven't known Overland to sit back if there's a position in front of him to take.
I agree. Chris Overland known to be a little more aggressive than most. You see him stick his nose in there in turn number 1. And I was just getting ready to say, Daly's car, the attitude in it looks a lot like that of Ray Alfala. The car is stuck to the yellow line, seems to be rotating very well in the center and very much at ease, getting on the throttle and working the wheel. Not a lot of massive movements like maybe you see out of Overland, and for that matter, Matt Busa up in second. So I think Daly is going to be very good as this race wears on, same as Ray Alfala. Daly just didn't quite qualify as well as Alfala, running now back in 10th after starting 9th, whereas Ray was able to start on the pole and has led every lap thus far. But again, we're 28 laps in. It's hard to say lap 28. Now lap 128, we'll probably have a pretty good idea.
And a lot of these drivers, Tony, are going to try to hold on to that lap 100 mark. I've been talking to Jordan Hightower back and forth, crew chief for the number 89 car, Landon Harrison, and I said 100 laps or so is about the fuel window. Is that when you guys are going to come in? He said, optimally, yes. So I said, if this thing goes green, is it a one-stop race? He said yes. It will likely be a one-stop race for that team at least.
Hold on, Tim. Hold on. Joe just texted me. He said he's wanting this to be a 3-stop race. He thinks 3 stops will win this race this week.
Well, somewhere in his own little world, if this was a 300-lap race, and maybe we could probably go with him on that.
Well, no, if it was a 300-lap race, I still think it would be a 2-stop race, and I will stand by that one.
If we do have cautions, though, Joe might come true, and that theory might come to effect. But right now, as it stands, these guys are thinking of going a one-stop race, or at least the 89 team is. And I was about to say the 89 team, look at the 41 of Jake Sturgis. A couple of those teams, they like to gamble on fuel anyway, so a 100-lap pit window, even if it is close, Tony, they're going to throw it out anyway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Tim. And really, when you look at the past of this race, it seems like this race has one of these looks to it. It starts out, it does one of 2 things. It starts out green, and here goes Busa for the lead now in turn 1. Speaking of green, he is on the green pedal and making things happen off turn number 2. So Busa now going to edge ahead of that Sim Pedals Ford of Ray Alfalla. And Ray better watch out up top, because here comes Ottinger, here comes Gilliland. He's got a whole freight train of cars behind him if he cannot find his way back to the bottom. But to my point, Tim, well, actually, I've already forgot what in the world we were talking about. Never mind. I'm sure you'll pull it up here in a second.
To the outside, the 2 of Ray Alfalla falling back right now, and Ottinger in the 05, you have to believe that maybe he is going to try to get by Busa and get that extra bonus point for leading a lap here. But the one thing that I see out of Ray Alfalla, we'll see if these guys actually pull away from the number 2. You see the 8 car underneath him now of Adam Gilliland. We'll see if Ray was saving anything, or maybe it was those guys back there waiting for this to happen, waiting for Ray Alfalla to get off that inside line. But he leads the first 33 laps of this race, Tony. You have to believe that in the back of the mind, Ray Alfalla is thinking, okay, maybe I can get a quick pit stop, get out here and get that extra bonus point for leading the most laps as well, because right now Conti still mired back in 13th place.
Yeah, this is not a good race for Conti, and at first I kind of speculated that he's going to have to be on the button and really making things happen. But I am also starting to wonder if Michael Conti is not trying to win a championship. And I know you're thinking that sounds completely retarded and stupid, but I'm exactly right. He is not trying to win a championship right now, at least from the looks of this. He's trying not to lose a championship, and you race completely different. When that happens, Tim, you race a little more cautiously. It's almost like a prevent defense, and you've heard countless football commentators use this analogy, and it's the same for racing. A prevent defense does one thing, prevents you from winning. And if that's Conti's plan right now, he's going to end up in the same shape, because Alfalla can take a huge chunk out of his lead if things continue as they are at the moment.
Well, let's think about it here. Is we have Ottinger looking at the 34 of Busa for the lead position. It's what, 25 points between the top 2. Let's say Ray Alfalla makes up an average of 10 positions in the next 3 races. That is 30 points. Throw in a bonus point for leading a lap or so in between there. Alfalla's got the championship on Conti. Right now, Ray Alfalla runs 4th. Michael Conti runs 13th. There's 10 points right there in between those 2 if that was the way it was to stay. But it looks like at this point, at least Tony, Ray Alfalla might have a short run car, because we're hitting 40 laps, and Ray Alfalla's car is like it's been pushed off a cliff, because he's falling off the pace of these top 3. The 05 of Ottinger is on the 34, and the 8 car of Adam Gilliland keeping with the top 3. Ray Alfalla is essentially pushing Chad Lawton and Alex Warren a little bit further back in this battle, as Adam Gilliland is hungry. He's and that doesn't surprise me. He's looking at the 2nd place position on the 05.
That he is, Tim. That put me back to my point from earlier. And, well, never mind. Here we go. Nick Ottinger allowed around the outside of Matt Busa. A couple of Toyota teammates there. Who would have ever thought that Busa would allow Ottinger around to lead a lap in his quest for the championship? But back to short runs and long runs. This race tends to have one of 2 patterns, it seems like in the past, Tim. It starts out with a really long run like we've got right now, and then we have yellow fever throughout the second half of the race. Or start out with yellow fever and have a really long run at the end of the race. And that might be something I think you're onto. Ray Alfalla might be making the bet that at least the race will end with short runs, and he can charge towards the end of the race and make up spots. Whereas Conti, it appears, might have a little bit of a longer run setup. I keep looking at lap times between the 2, and Alfala has fallen off just a little bit compared to the front runners. Half a tenth to a tenth, maybe not a lot, but just enough where he's starting to fall back into the clutches of those behind him and allow Ottinger, Busa, and company to begin to pull away.
As Adam Gilman takes position number 2 away from Matt Busa and begins to chase down Nick Ottinger. Yeah, we saw Conti a few moments ago, comfortably right now in that spot with the 54 up on the 5, and then you see the 2 of Ray Alfala now falling up to the 34, 26, 82, 27, and 39. Still behind the number 2 though, so he's going to try, I would say, Tony, to try to get this 3rd place spot, maybe bring some friends along with him, but got to keep a half eye on that battle up in front because Adam Gilliland has won here before. A little bit more competition and different players in this race, but Adam Gilliland knows his way around this racetrack. I don't think he's done with Nick Ottinger.
Nah, I'm with you, Tim. It's a little different in the iRacing service, and it's a very simple reason why. When you come here in a NASCAR Nationwide car, a NASCAR Cup car, truck, NASCAR late model stock car, whatever it happens to be, the track stays the same, but you do have to learn the characteristics of a car. And say a Nationwide car is going to react differently to a Cup car and different things like that. Yeah, the tire might be the same, but the setup underneath of it's going to be completely different. In the iRacing service, the NASCAR Pro Series and the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series,
off-season of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, I'm sure you're going to see some drivers that come through the field and come through the pack. A guy like Brian Day ran solid at the start of the season, and yes, he is still in the top 20. He has fallen back the last couple of races, but nevertheless...
Whoa, Day! Speaking of Day, holy cow! Sorry, Tim. He and the 3 of Schmidt just about cashed it in over in turn number 1. Schmidt cut down on Brian Day's Plan B sales Toyota, and they just about had to put that one over in the diecast graveyard because it was to be nothing but a crumpled heap of metal, and somehow Schmidt was able to hang on to it. A little bit of damage to the right front of Day's Toyota, but he'll continue to soldier on back in 26th spot.
And just in front of them, Brian Blackford, we talked about Blackford racing with the injuries that he has sustained in a karting accident a few weeks ago. He's on the back bumper of Brian Schoenberg. If there's any pain coming from Blackford, it's not showing because he is up on the back bumper of the 55. And the one thing that I'm thinking of, Tony, is the 33 does make the move on Schoenberg for the spot. Schoenberg is a teammate to Mike Conti and is a teammate to Danny Hansen and the J-Show Motorsports team. The highest J-Show Motorsports driver that I'm seeing right now, Tony, on the racetrack is Conti in 13th. You got Danny Hansen falling back to 22nd. You got Schoenberg now falling back to 25th. Thomas Lewandowski's not running well.
All those comparisons together. Generally in this particular series, we see a lot of similarities between teammates. They'll run very close to one another on the racetrack. And when you point out how horribly that team is doing, quite frankly, I think you might be right. I think they might have missed the setup a little bit, or at least not quite been where they maybe were targeted to be. There's an old saying in racing, when you're building a race car, you never have a race car ready and right. You just simply run out of time. And I think maybe in the case of J-Show this week, they ran out of time and they did not have it anywhere close to where they wanted it to be. At least that's what the results would seem to indicate right now.
Yeah, Schoenberg's falling like a stone in the pond. He just got passed by Brian Day, and we talked about how bad Brian Day's car's driving right now. That thing's bobbling all over the place in front of the 55. He's got Scribner behind him in the 50. Got T-Loff behind him in the 51. They're lining up right now to pass the 55 to Schoenberg. And keep in mind, it hasn't been Schoenberg's season. Started off a little bit rough, and it just continued on down the hill, per se. And it's tough to see Schoenberg struggle like this. Hopefully he can make it through the NASCAR Pro Series and make it back to this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series for next season, because right now, Tony, it doesn't look like he's going to lock himself into the top 20, especially with the way this evening is going as we complete 55 laps, and the 55 car is looking at 26th and possibly falling backwards.
Yeah, it is tough to see him struggle. He had such great runs. I think back most notably to Pocono, where he legitimately had a shot and possibly the car to win that race, and it just didn't quite all fall the way it should have. And it seems like since that very race, it has been a downhill. Whoa, hello Schoenberg. Just about went up the hill too far for that matter, but he has got his hands full of that main performance TC machine. Certainly not the night that Schoenberg won it. And we were talking about teammates, Tim, and you mentioned Brian Day. I also wonder if some of these teams didn't go split decisions on who runs what, because Brian Day is a member of the Gale Force Racing bunch, and he's 25th. Meanwhile, the Gale Force Racing flag holder right now is leading the race, a second and a half out, and that's Nick Ottinger. So while teammates might be running similar setups, it wouldn't surprise me to see some of these guys go into something completely different as far as this week's concerned, or maybe Brian Day is running R&D for Nick Ottinger. You really don't know until you find out after the race.
I could be wrong, though, Tony. Correct me if I'm wrong. Scribner's on the same Gale Force team, correct?
I think so, actually. Yeah, he's got the Gale Force logo on the back deck lid, so he's up there as well, or, at least he was, and now he's kind of falling back a little bit throughout the field.
Yeah, he's right there with Brian Day in 26th place. Could it possibly be those guys, maybe? I don't want to talk about a Hendrick Motorsports where there's 2 cars, it's a 4-car team, 2 cars are in the same shop. Could it possibly be something like that where Brian Day and Alex Scribner might be working a little bit closer than Ottinger or Busa? Keep in mind, a lot of these drivers, as Brian Day makes a pass with Brian Blackford from position 24, they have day jobs, they go to work. Some of these guys are students per se, and they model their schedule a little bit different than somebody that, let's say, works 9 to 5. So maybe the different work schedules help in that as well. But you look at Adam Gilliland, Cody Bias, Alex Warren, Justin Bolton, all those guys from Cody Bias Racing, they're within the top 9 right now and doing fairly well for themselves. But on the other side of it, T-Love is back in 27th.
Yeah, and you see some splits, Tim, and some of that also comes down to driver preference as well. Being Richmond is the type of racetrack it is, one of these D-shaped ovals, it's very hard sometimes, right here in turn 1, for instance, to get the feel of the car. Some drivers like that car hung out, feeling like it's in a 4-wheel drift, and they're able to get that car under control, get it to rotate, get the throttle down, and get back in the gas down the back straightaway. Other drivers like that car just a little bit more snug, a little bit tighter, a little bit more on the right front, and over time, that sometimes can wear the tires out and change the balance of the race car, and depending on what your driver is comfortable with, depends on how much in one direction you can go with setup. Nick Ottinger looks like a little more comfortable. I've seen that car bobble a bunch under braking. Very comfortable with having that car 3 on entry, whereas maybe Brian Day and Alex Scribner not so much, as Ottinger already beginning to work traffic at the tail of the field. Just overlapped Landon Harrison. Now Brandon Hoffman, the 23, is the next victim to go a lap down.
Oh, Byron Daly missed pit road. I don't know why he's coming down pit road in the first place, but he missed pit road at corner number 4, and he nearly bought the farm. The Newtelligence Ford Fusion will have to come down pit road, and yeah, Thomas Lewandowski's coming down as well. And Tony, we're talking about guys that are just outside the top 10 right now, so maybe it is a 2-stop race or a 3-stop race. But here's Daly down on pit road the second time works. And the other thing I want to mention as well, if we can get a camera on the number 89, we talked about new paint for the 2 of Ray Alfala and the 32. The 89 of Landon Harrison has new paint as well. That's the JDR Graphics Chevrolet SS, and JDR reminds me that they do have t-shirts on sale, so if you want to support JDR Graphics and support a great sim racing company that has done some stuff in the real world, Tony, go to jdrgraphics.com and buy a t-shirt.
Oh, yes, he's got all kinds of cool stuff, and that is a very good-looking car. Very sharp, accented properly. Not a lot of overkill. That's one thing JD's always been really good at, is creating cars that have a lot of pop, a lot of pep in them, and they don't look very junky, for lack of a better term. They look very professional and clean, and Landon Harris's car, no exception to that by any means.
Yeah, and JD does a lot of my late models and super late models when I do some iRacing stuff, and does a lot of my graphic work for timscorner.ca as well as 89 Bobbles. And here comes Adam Gilliland to put him in the rearview mirror. The Gary Mercer Trucking number 8 still in position number 2, but it looks like the longer that we go here, Tony, Ottinger gets a little bit better. Yes, Adam Gilliland is in position number 2, and yes, he's got 2 seconds on position number 3, but it just looks like Ottinger is just a touch better on the longer run. Adam Gilliland might have something for him on the short run, but I think Nick Ottinger's got the field covered on the long run, at least at this point in the race.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tim. At this, he does have the field covered. The question will be, is Byron Daly just unlapped himself around Nick Ottinger, how valuable will tires be, and can you make this a 2-stop race compared to 1? At the moment, Daly is about 0.8 of a second quicker than Nick Ottinger. That's substantial. When you're making 22 and 23 second laps, that's a matter of 25 or 30 laps. You can make a lap up on the competition. I just don't know if one stop or two stops is going to be the answer. And I think a lot of that's going to come down to the cautions, Tim. Unlike Atlanta last week, where to me it was pretty dry, here you risk going 2, maybe even 3 laps down if you pit under green. That's a lot to make up, especially if we have the cautions. Atlanta, if you get stuck 1 lap down, that's fine. You get the wave around, and you're able to kind of claw back from it. Here, it's a little more difficult, and you're putting a big risk in the bank. However, if everybody has to go through a green flag stop, I'm not sure which one's going to win the race this week. I think 2 is very viable, but I think 1 could also have a very viable shot as well.
You talked about last week as well, Tony, about being committed and being involved. And I think right now you have to be committed to one of those strategies, at least at this point, because you're looking at half the field right now, or at least half of the field that was within the top 20 coming down onto pit road. A guy like Byron Daly, a guy like Thomas Lewandowski, Brad Davies has a good car this evening as well. He runs in 35th right now, 2 laps down. So there are a couple of drivers that have made that commitment, per se, to go on at least a 2-stop strategy. Their next pit stop should be around lap 150 or so, a little bit before, and then they can go to the rest of the race on the fuel and the tires that they have. You'd have to believe that if you're Nick Ottinger, if you're or Adam Gilliland, Ray Alfala, those guys that are out on the racetrack now within the top 10, you probably have to stay out right now, Tony, and try to make this a 1-stop race.
Yeah, I think you do if you're going to be up there. And to me, I like the idea of 1 stop. Unless the car is completely uncontrollable and completely out to lunch, I like the idea of 1 stop simply because it's less chance to screw up. It's less chance to get caught by a caution flag. The downside is it's less chance to work on the race car. But if you were good to begin with, you kind of know what the car is going to need, if anything. And that tends to be a little bit of an advantage. So I prefer the 1 stop. And if I had to put a bet on it this week, Tim, I'd say it's 55-45 that 1 stop will win the race.
If the caution flag comes out now, Tony, those guys are screwed that came down pit road already.
Oh,
Byron Daly can stay out. He's only 1 lap down. If everybody else pitted, he could stay out and get the wave around. Landon Harrison would be the free pass car, but Lewandowski, Cattell, Hoff, Chaburko, and Davies are all 2 laps down. It would screw them. Essentially, that would be the race, and they'd be racing the rest of the laps, trying to get back at least to 1 lap down to get a wave by or to get a lucky dog, a free pass. So they're hoping, at least for their sake, the strategy goes a little bit further. 47-27 maybe coming down here. No, they exchange positions. That'll put Overland up to position number 6 and Cody Bias back to 7th. But if you're a couple of those guys, you got to hope that it stays green. Lewandowski underneath the 36 of Bolton, and if you're Lewandowski, you've got to try to get your way up and pass the leader at least and get one of those laps back. Right now, he's approximately 5 seconds away from doing so.
Yeah, and that's going to be a little difficult. And I'm watching Byron Daly as well, Tim. Daly did come down pit road, really one of the first and only front runners to come down early. And while he's pulling away considerably from the 05 of Nick Ottinger, I don't see it working the way this is playing out at the moment. It could, but I just don't see it happening. Now, Daly, because he was so close to the leader when he came down pit road, has already been able to unlap himself once. And if the caution comes out, he won't be nearly as set back. He'll probably stay out, get the wave around, and be able to regroup from there. But it's still not exactly where he was running. So again, very, very big risk for that Intelligence-driven steering wheel bunch. But apparently they feel that's the strategy they're going to need to play out. And we haven't seen Brian Blackford, his teammate, come down pit road either. We haven't seen Ray Alfala come down pit road. So I'm starting to wonder if that strategy might be something a little outside the box for Byron Daly. Maybe to try to get him in victory lane, somewhere he has been so close to in this series, but still has yet to be able to pull it off.
And you look at the guys like Lewandowski and Davies and Brandon Hoff and a couple of those other guys that were outside the top 20 before that pit stop. Think back to Ray Alfala and what he did at Homestead last season, where he didn't have the car to win, and albeit he was running for a championship, maybe different circumstances, but he knew he didn't have a car to win and a car to compete within the top 5. So he went back on pit strategy and said, maybe this will work out. In the end, obviously, it did not work out to the way Ray Alfala wanted to. As you see Brian Schoenberg go 1 lap down on the racetrack to Nick Ottinger. it didn't work out that way, Tony, that Ray Alfalla wanted it to, but maybe Lewandowski and Davies are subscribing to that same strategy where if something goes right, we might be a top 10 car at the end of the race, but if it doesn't go well, our race isn't going well to begin with, so maybe it's a gamble that we can afford to take.
And it's a big gamble, Tim. And looking at the way things are playing out, there's not a lot of people that are subscribing to that same gamble. Thomas Lewandowski is on fresh tires, starting to move through the field right now. I've been watching some of his progress, and while he's able to pick up considerably against 6, 7, 8 tenths on the guys that don't have tires, it's not going to last throughout the run. I just don't see that advantage playing out over the course of 2 stops versus 1. I mean, if I'm on the 1-stop strategy, I make a stop at 15 laps, Tim, and these guys might be a half a lap in front of me, but then they still have to pit again. So it doesn't seem to work out for me the way everything currently stands.
You ride on the roof with Thomas Lewandowski as he tries to cut his way back through the field to the inside. I believe that's a 34 Matt Busa he will put in the rearview mirror, and then he's made up 2 seconds or so in the last 10 laps, albeit he has been in traffic. He's bringing, I believe that's Brandon Cattell behind him in car number 80, so they are making up some time, but as you mentioned, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Over 200 laps if this thing does stay green. We are closing in on the halfway point of this race, 15 laps away from it, or a little bit less than that because I'm watching Brandon Cattell. We're on lap 88, about to close 88 here with Nick Ottinger. So Adam Gilliland 1.2 seconds behind, and it looks like that gap has stabilized a little bit, Tony, within the last 10 laps. Gilliland just a touch faster that last time than Nick Ottinger, so it looks like the gap has stabilized a little bit between the top two, so maybe Adam was saving something, trying to figure out what that car had on the long run, and maybe trying to keep a little bit in this back pocket.
Do you hear that, Tim? Do you hear that? It's the Jaws theme playing in the background. Adam Gilliland, I think, might have a little bit left in the tank here that he's not necessarily showing to chase down Nick Ottinger. It wouldn't surprise me to maybe see him try to play a little bit of pit strategy to get an advantage on Ottinger, maybe even if it's only a lap or 2 pitting before the 05. That would be enough to maybe get out and leapfrog ahead of the Ream Machine. But I think Gilliland is good enough here and smart enough here that that car will be around at the end. He's had to slice through the field. He's closed within 1 1/4 seconds or so. And right now I think he's just riding. I think he's just making laps. He doesn't want to show Ottinger everything he has, because if Ottinger has some sort of deficiency in the car, he doesn't want to let Ottinger realize that and have a chance to fix it.
Ooh, that's a nice little battle there between 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th that we're seeing now. Justin Bolton and his teammate Alex Warren going at it. 57 of PJ Sturgis, 22 of Rob Ackley side by side. This is an entertaining little battle back here as the teammates swap positions. And looks like Alex Warren going to lose a little bit more here as the 22 looks to the outside. And the 57 of PJ Sturgis, could he be going inside? Could we see 3 wide down the front straightaway? Into corner number 1, Sturgis thinks about it. He is there on the inside of Warren. And the 82 car will have to bow out. And we'll lose 2 positions. And here comes Sturgis sliding it into the inside. Great save by the 57.
Thought we had caution number 1 there, Tim. I really, really did. As sideways as that car was, it still continues to be, for that matter. PJ Sturgis, this is a very pleasantly uncharacteristic run for him. We tend to see him mired a little deeper in the field, and he has been solid all race long, quite frankly. Started inside the top 20, now working his way inside the top 10 as he gets by Alex Warren. Very pleasant surprise for PJ Sturgis to see him working his way forward and having a shot at a race where, quite frankly, he doesn't have to rely on fuel mileage to win it.
When you look at PJ Sturgis, when you look at the championships that he's won on this service, yes, all of these drivers had to make their way up into this series through the NASCAR Pro Series or the NASCAR Class A Open Series back in the day. But you look at PJ Sturgis, he's won championships, short track championships on this service. He's great in the sprint car. He's great in the Silver Crown car. He's good in the modified. He's good in the late model. He's a short track guy. He grew up racing these short tracks on this iRacing service and in real life as well, but on this service loves these short tracks and loves these cars that are a little bit of a handful to handle as the 41 goes on the inside of the 39 behind Jake Sturgis, making the move on the 39, and the 93 of Byron Daly and the 39 almost have a moment behind them, coming off of corner number 4 as the 93 goes to the inside of the 41. Now new tires on that number 93, and he is cutting through this field like a hot knife through butter. But back to PJ Sturgis for a second here. He's won many short track championships here. He's won the Triple Crown per se back in the day, where he won the modified, the late model, and street stock, I believe it was. He's won a lot of championships, Tony, hard to keep track of. Likes these short tracks, doesn't surprise me. He's up within the top 10.
No, it really doesn't, and there just seems to be something about guys who love short tracks, Tim. I don't know what it is. I mean, Dick Trickle kind of had the same problem when he was with us, and a lot of these so-called short track specialists. Jake Sturgis now comes to pit road. They're around to complete lap number 98. He'll make a bid for pit lane for the service of his crew. Same for Chad Lawton, the 26 machine, also coming in for attention and for 4 tires in virtual racing fuel. But to finish my point real quick, as Conti now pulls away as well, it just seems like the dynamics of the car at a slower track, where it's more about mechanical grip and driver, as opposed to a speedway where it's more about aerodynamic grip, not so much the driver and the mechanical grip. It seems like drivers tend to gravitate towards one or the other. And Sturgis, oh, hello, Ottinger. And Sturgis, I was going to say, Tim, tends to be one of those more mechanical grip type of guys.
Nick Ottinger onto pit road, but he nearly got run into coming onto pit road as there was a bunch of guys behind him, including Mike Conti, trying to get onto the racetrack and try to make up some time. Gilliland will lead a lap here. Ottinger will come down to the attention of his crew. We are halfway, 100 laps completed, 100 to go.
Now Adam Gilliland being left out front. He got about, huge lead, about 6 seconds to change over Cody Bias. But he now is stuck in traffic that's faster than he is because they've all been in for fresh tires. He's out there wallowing around 23 and a half second laps. He just wants to let these guys go. You see him up the racetrack because he knows how much it's hurting him, and for that matter, how quickly he needs to get to pit road. And the last thing he wants to do, Tim, is try to have these guys check up and have a chain reaction behind him while he comes to pit lane. So Gilliland now looks like he might be able to get down to pit road if he so chooses.
Yeah, we'll see if he does come down pit road this time. You'd have to believe that he would come down this time since he's on the apron. Nope, he's going to stay out on the racetrack and complete 103 on the racetrack. So he'll lead this one here. Alex Warren, his teammate in position number 2. Cody Bias, another teammate in position 3, but he is down pit road, is Cody Bias. So the top 2 on the racetrack right now, 8 seconds between them. They are teammates. Then you got Peter Bennett, Danny Hansen, last time by scored in the top 5. Here he comes onto pit road. Here comes Gilliland on the apron and to the attention of his crew in the Gary Mercer number 8.
Slowly down, 40 miles per hour is the speed limit. It is a long pit road here at the short track that is Richmond International Raceway. The blue and white Chevrolet of Adam Gilliland racing for what could be a career run here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Finally gets down to the attention of his crew. He'll hit the signboard on the marks. The crew will dash over the wall. Right side is in the air. 2 brand new Goodyear Virtual Racing Eagles on that side of the car. And as anticipated, left side, similar service, and a full tank of virtual Sunoco Racing fuel. Gilliland now down and away. Where he cycles out in the rest of the field, that's going to be the interesting part. But it looks like he'll be nowhere near the 05 of Nick Ottinger.
26 is coming up behind him, Chad Lawton, and Chad Lawton is 6 seconds or so behind Nick Ottinger at this point. You talk about career run for Adam Gilliland. Yes, he has won Daytona in this series. He's won the biggest race there is to win. But when you look at other drivers, Jeremy Allen's won Daytona, Josh Lawton's won Daytona, they haven't been able to win a race anywhere else. Not saying it's talent, because those drivers have run well at other racetracks, but they haven't won anywhere but a restrictor plate race. Adam Gilliland wants to prove everybody else wrong.
And it looks like Danny Hansen has problems. That car might be out of fuel. Maybe needs some more money in the bank. So speak, call up sick pay. I'm sure he'll be sure to get you some processed over there, Danny. That's not exactly the way you want to bring a sponsor into the NASCAR Antifreeze series, begging them for more products. Please give me something. I need to purchase fuel. Just kidding. But he will coast the pit lane, and that is going to be a huge, huge mark for Danny Hansen. It's going to be very hard to recover from that one, I think, Tim.
but he was falling back as Nick Ottinger will go back to the top of the board. He was falling back in that run to outside the top 20 where his teammates Brian Schoenberg and Tom Lewandowski and a couple of others were running, as the 32 will get to pit road. He will get to his box, but he will lose a ton of time to do so. Ottinger up to the top, and look who is in second. 93, Byron Daly last time by scored in position, and that's indeed where he is. Byron Daly, number 2.
But Tim, proving again why if this race stays green, that strategy will not work. Daly is going to have to pit. To keep with this strategy, he's going to have to pit the next 10 to 20 to 30 laps. I don't see that working out, because now Ottinger, Alfala, Gilliland, they're all done pitting if the race stays green. They're not going to be to pit road again. Daly is going to be clawing out of a 2-lap down hole. So I don't really see that happening. And as it is, he continues to lose ground, Tim. Those older tires, 2, 3, 4 tenths, maybe 5 tenths of a lap slower at this juncture. It's great for the time being, and it's worth the risk and the gamble, but you've really got to catch the cautions right. And unless there's one that comes out in the next 20 or 30 laps, I think Byron Daly's strategy is going to backfire on him.
And Ray Alfala going to look now for position number 2 into the teammates. Almost make a little bit of contact with the 2 of Alfala. Will get past and move to position number 2. But if they do get a caution, Tony, within the next, let's say, 20 laps before Byron Daly comes down pit road. Now, I use 20 laps because Nick Ottinger was down pit road 12 laps ago, per se. If he goes another 20 laps or so, it'll be 30 laps into the run. He'll have to come down pit road. Question is, how far does Byron fall in 20 laps? He's got the 33 behind him, 33 not on the same lap, but Adam Gilliland indeed is. So he is standing to lose position number 4 here in just a few laps' time. If it does get a caution within 20 laps, it might work for Byron, but as you mentioned, if it goes past 20 or 30 laps, probably not going to get there. Almost 3 wide at the 8 of Adam Gilliland to the inside of the 33 of Brian Blackford, and Blackford gets up on him, the 93 of Byron Daly, slowing them up a little bit. He's stuck in a slip angle sandwich, and the angle might be slipped a little bit here if the 93 doesn't get out of dodge.
Yeah, and the Byron Daly, the only thing he has working for him right now, Tim, is that Brian Blackford is his teammate. And so Blackford knows he doesn't want to take his teammate out in the middle of this, but Blackford also knows he's got to get moving forward as well. He's running back in 30th spot. And again, after last week, the news of Blackford's karting accident and everything that's happened, it's a miracle to see him on the racetrack, for that matter. We've been asked, and we've had people want to know, how things going with him, what's the status. Quite frankly, things are very good as far as what they could be. It sounds like a lot of the things that they thought they might have to do medically, they're not going to have to do. Brian's body is doing a fantastic job of healing the wounds itself, so that's certainly good news. It's a little bit less work and pain he's going to have to go through, but also a lot of people want to show how they can give support, and they have started a website where if you want to help out with some of the things, there's information there on how to do it. It is crowdrise.com/BB33. Again, that's crowdrise.com/BB33. All the information's on there if you want to help out any way you can. Also, Brian loves getting cards. I think the address is on there as well, as far as where to send cards. You can't have any flowers and toys or any of that stuff because of the nature of the wounds and things. But he loves getting cards, letters, all things like that. Saw iRacing member Sean Siff sending a pair of Bose headphones to race with and different things with while he's recovering. So certainly good to see the community backing Brian Blackford after an injury, pursuing the passion we all have, the common passion, Tim, and that is speed and racing at a local kart track.
Nick Ottinger out in front of this field, and you talk about Brian Blackford and the way he's been running, 1 lap down right now in position number 30, but he's in good company back there as well. Thomas Lewandowski, he talked about his teammate having some differing strategies as well, with Byron Daly falling back right now. He's got the 32, the 3, the 50 behind him. Keep in mind, neither of those are for any position right now, but 93 is falling back a little bit. So Brian Blackford, injury and all, not doing too bad. Especially with the company he's keeping back there. Brian Schoenberg, Landon Harrison within the same lap as well. Ottinger continues to lead. He's got the Brandon Cattell car in front of him and now behind him as he makes light work of that race car, and he'll continue on. Ray Alfala and Adam Gilliland are about to battle for position number 2 with the 8 car to the inside of the 2 as they go down the front straightaway. And Gilliland on a mission, trying to get everything he can out of this car on the short run. He's up to 2nd.
And doing a great job, Tim. The thing, though, that Gilliland has working against him is the fact that he's going to have to tax that race car more than maybe he wants to catch Nick Ottinger. Ottinger, on the other hand, has a 3.5-second lead where he can just kind of coast and do his own thing, take his time through traffic. Gilliland having to race that car for all it's worth just to catch him. And we saw at the end of the last run that Gilliland started to wear out just a little bit. Again, had to drive through the field, started 5th, 6th spot in the 3rd row, and Ottinger, well, he was already up front. So I think Gilliland is going to need the aid of a caution if he's going to have any shot at catching and passing Nick Ottinger.
And keep a eye on the championship chase as well as we continue on here. Michael Conti runs in position number 12, and keep in mind Byron Daly is falling back to him. And if this thing does stay green, he'll likely pass the 93 car of Byron Daly, but just past Justin Bolton for position number 12. He's got PJ Sturgis, Cody Baez, Brandon Bowie, and Rob Ackley directly in front of him, and that is up to position number 8. So if he can make some ground here, Tony, he might not be too bad off when it comes to the point loss that he's currently looking at right now, because Ray Alfala runs in position number 3. Alfala's led a lap, Conti has not. So you look at 10 points there. That 25-point margin comes into a 15-point margin, and with 2 races to go, 15's a lot more manageable than 25 is.
Oh, it really is. That's only 7 or 8 spots per race. And really, that's in a worst-case scenario. If you win a race and the guy you're racing does not lead a lap and finishes 5th or 6th, there's your 7 or 8 points right there. So that makes it very doable and very easy compared to 25, which the way things have been all season is a little bit more of a far-fetched idea. Not impossible by any means, but a little bit more difficult given the way things have been in the past. So I think Conti has the motivation to work his way forward. Now Alfala also has the motivation to work his way forward. But at the moment, it seems Alfala has the upper hand here in Richmond, no doubt, compared to Conti. But Conti's got a lot of position cars right ahead of him, so that could change very quickly in a matter of laps here.
And you know, as well, Ottinger is out in front leading this race, and I'm pretty sure he's led the most laps in this race so far. When you look at that as well, 10 points behind Ray Alfala. Yes, going to make up some time on Ray Alfala points-wise. He's also going to make up some points on the 5 of Conti, who's mired in this traffic right now. And you see the 16 car, go up high, and it looks like Conti will move to position number 11 here as Byron Daly moves back behind this little gaggle of cars. But you look at Ottinger 10 points up as Byron Daly will come to pit road here, so that strategy is not going to work for the 93. Ottinger is trying to put himself back in this championship picture as well, and he's doing everything that he can at this point, Tony, to do so.
And winning races, leading the most laps is a pretty stout way to do that. And Ottinger is in a position where he needs something to happen to everybody around him. I mean, he cannot do this controlling his own destiny. I mean, he can do his part, but he needs something to happen to Ray, he needs something to happen to Michael. He needs a lot of things to happen that are not impossible by any means, but very improbable to happen, considering how many of them would have to play out. But just like last year, we thought that was impossible. It absolutely happened. So we'll just have to see what we're dealt with the next couple of races or so.
And obviously everything could change in the next 70 laps or so as the 26 is stuck in heavy traffic as well. There's the other driver that's standing on the outside right now looking in at this battle. Could be a part of this battle if something does go wrong. And with the way these guys are battling right now, Tony, one small slip could put Michael Conti back a few more positions than he is right now. So Chad Lawton running in position number 6 and not only trying to keep himself in the talk or in the small shadows of the championship battle, but he's got Chris Overland back behind him as well, 9 points back. And Overland right now 1 position ahead of him on the racetrack. So not only does Chad Lawton have to look ahead, he's got to look back too.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Tim. When you start playing the point game when you're on the racetrack, it affects your performance because instead of focusing on what you should be focusing on, driving in circles, turning left, going as fast as you possibly can, you're focused on everything else around you. You're not running your race. You tend to run somebody else's race, or a race that at least isn't yours, or the way it normally would be. So you've really got to put the points thing out of your head if you're Chad Long. You've got to just simply run your race, do your thing, let the points fall where they may. And I got a feeling Alfala and Ottinger are doing the same thing, because I know their philosophy pretty much is win races, the points take care of themselves. And when you do that, it's a lot easier, a lot less stressful, because then you're worried about one thing that you can control. That's your race and your race car. You can't control 42 other cars and their races, so why even worry about it?
Yeah, you've got to go out and do exactly what you need to do in order to keep yourself in the battle. Whether it is the battle for the lead, or it's a battle for 5th or 6th place, as the 93 of Byron Daly is going to close up in the 05 of Nick Ottinger. And there's that strategy when we talk about it, Tony. Byron is 2 laps down right now. If this thing stays green, as the 53 of Brandon Hawk is slowing up the leader a little bit, Byron Daly's going to unlap himself here. Then he needs to make up 2 more laps under green in order to have anything for the leader. Yes, it might work out for those other guys that do come down pit road, but Byron at best likely is going to finish maybe 25th or so if this thing stays the way it is. But it's key for him to unlap himself here, to be on 1 lap down and possibly have a wave around if we do get a quick caution. But he needs to get by the 05 and get by the 05 quick. There he goes.
And that was pretty quick into turn number 1. So this is exactly what we saw in the last run, Tim. When Ottinger came to pit road, Daly had made up approximately a half a lap on him. And then that strategy was split in half. So Daly might get back to the tail end of the lead lap, but I think that's really going to be about it. It's not going to work out the way he planned. Again, barring caution flags, which surprisingly we have not seen any of in this race. We're 140 laps into a 200-lap contest at Richmond, of all places. And while this race has traditionally been a yellow fever type of event, we haven't seen anything resembling such.
93 car underneath the 53 just in front of the leader as Brandon Hawk is about to go 1 lap down under green. That would put 21 drivers on the lead lap. As we get close to 50 laps to go in this point, and Adam Gilliland 2.9 seconds back, Ray Alfala 4.8, Busa and Overland complete your top 5. We're getting close to a pit stop here, Tony, ourselves, because we've gone 150 laps without taking a break.
Yeah, that's saying a whole lot for us, because we're a bunch of motor mouths and we're about ready to run out of gas. You've got to feed the contraption somehow.
We're going to step away for just a few moments' time. Refill your glasses, refill your popcorn dishes, whatever you got in front of you, because this one's going to be good coming down to the end of this race. We're getting ready to go to break. Ottinger's getting ready to put it on the hammer again. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.
This is where it gets difficult. This is where your name's on the line, everything's on the line. You get that one chance to go out there and put down your best performance with the most amount of pressure.
You got to take this race car, this whole new group of people, go to the racetrack, somehow impress them, and oh, by the way, you got to do it now. It's now or never.
The first thing that went through my mind was like, no way.
Just be real important to try to figure out how to keep the tires under him and run a smart 150 laps.
They might bump him around a little bit, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Everybody should enter next year's contest, because you never know what could happen, man. You can come out here and run top 5 in your first K&N West race. So I'm so psyched right now. This is incredible.
Welcome back to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing, round number 14 of 17. And Ottinger is your leader, closing in on Thomas Lewandowski, putting Lewandowski one more lap down. Lewandowski already 2 laps down, and Tony, that is P34 for the guy that was in victory lane 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it really is, but again, it goes back to pit strategy and how it worked out for him in Atlanta. It's not going to work out for him here at Richmond, no doubt. However, the guy I am watching where things are working out for him is Adam Gilliland. Last time by, he picks up half a second on Nick Ottinger. This time across the stripe, he'll lose a 10th, but I think Lewandowski holding up Ottinger just a little bit to the point that maybe Gilliland's going to be able to close in. There is some heavy traffic as well ahead of Nick Ottinger to where it could be an issue over the next few laps. If we get down to crunch time, that might be all Adam Gilliland needs to maybe take one shot at Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, next time by, there's going to be 50 laps remaining in this event, and it looks like Ottinger hasn't been able to do anything with Lewandowski. I believe Lewandowski may have been down pit road for his second pit stop. He's on the same strategy as Byron Daly, Brandon Cattell, and a couple of others on this field. So even with that, Lewandowski really hasn't been able to pull away a whole lot from Ottinger. So maybe it's, yes, it is new tires, but maybe it's just the way those cars are handling, because the J-Show team, it looks like we mentioned it earlier, they've hit an air ball or something tonight, because they're not performing the way that we're used to seeing the J-Show team performing. Conti is the highest running J-Show car right now, and he is in 13th and about to lose it to Jake Sturgis in the 41, as Sturgis is up on the 5 for that spot.
Yeah, Conti has got to be throwing Hail Marys at this point. I think I've seen everything get tossed out of that car, from roll bar padding to beer cans to even catching his cousin up on top of the fence here in turn number 4, but Shannon Whitmore has said, no, we're not throwing a caution for that, because these aren't physical race cars. You can't get hurt with one of these, so sit on top of the fence as long as you like. And Conti, I think, is in all seriousness very, very desperate here, Tim. There's not a lot you can do other than just continue to make laps as fast as you possibly can, but, you know, Conti is just screaming for something to happen where he needs a yellow to somehow salvage what he's got going on today.
Even if he does get a yellow, the only way he's probably going to gain a whole lot of spots out of this, Tony, is if there's a lot of attrition in front of him, because the drivers that are in front of him right now have been in front of him for a majority of this race. And you look at the Cody Bias Racing Team, as the 41 looks at the 5 right here for position number 13. He'll take the spot going down to the corner number 1. Look at the Cody Bias Racing Team. They're running up front. A couple of guys from Last Row Motorsports, one of them being the car that just passed Mike Conti. PJ Sturgis, Chris Overland among them. The Gale Force Racing Team has a couple of drivers up there as well. Those teams and drivers have been flat outperforming the 5 car this evening, and that's something that we really can't say a whole lot about this season, because Conti has been on it almost every single week.
Wonder if it's not fun anymore and he's going to quit like he said he was going to do at the beginning of the year.
Sometimes you get burnt out, and especially with those guys that do go through the NASCAR Pro Series where they're running every single week, albeit Conti did have a break. He didn't have to run the Pro Series, and he said at the start of the year that he was going to take a little bit of a break and get away, and obviously with school and everything else that Mike Conti does have, he might want to focus on that 3 car around the back straightaway.
And there it is. Caution is out for the first time in almost 2 full races. Brandon Schmidt, the cause of it, on the backside of the racetrack. And Tim, turn 2 here. Very treacherous as you get on the gas. It tends to get away from you. Hard impact on the inside wall. And Brandon Schmidt will cause probably the most calamity and chaos we have seen all day long. Not what Byron Daly wanted to see, but certainly a welcome sight for Mitchell Hunt, Tyler Laughlin, all those guys at the tail end of the lead lap. As we were just talking about, welcome sight as well for Mike Conti. He can come in, make adjustments, maybe make a gamble taking 2 tires for track position. Really hard to say, but the field's going to be bunched back up, and we might have a completely different ball game here.
And if you're Adam Gilliland and you're good on the short run and you're going to start in second, albeit if you do get a good pit stop here, I think it works out for Adam Gilliland as much as it does Nick Ottinger or anybody else. Here comes the field onto pit road for, if this thing stays green, would be the final pit stop of this evening. Ottinger, Gilliland, Alfala, Overland, and Matt Busa. There's another driver that really needs a good pit stop here, needs an adjustment on it, is Matt Busa in the 34 after starting up front. Has fallen back to position number 5 and was continuing to fall back a little bit there as we worked on that run. Ottinger down in his box. Lights on, nobody's home.
Go, Tony.
Ottinger down and away, and it looks pretty clean from this vantage point. Tony didn't see any hiccups on that one. The 8 of Adam Gilliland comes off in second.
So Gilliland up to second, Tim, and this could be the best thing that's happened to Adam Gilliland. Seems like he's had a short run car, but you also have to look at Matt Busa, and you have to look at Ray Alfala. I think those two proved early in the race they had great short run cars, but I think Nick Ottinger was good enough on the short run that he might be able to hold them off. Again, this is lap 160 compared to lap 60, so it's much different there, but I think maybe Ray's got a little extra motivation, and Mike Conti, well, he didn't have the greatest of stops either. He actually lost a couple of positions. He's out 15th in the running order right now.
But when you look at that run that we just had, and albeit Ottinger may have been saving a little bit up in front, when they came off of pit road, a couple laps in between them, Adam Gilliland was 6 seconds or so back from Nick Ottinger. He gained 3 seconds and change between himself and the leader on that run. Now, was Nick Ottinger maybe playing it a little bit easier than what he would here? Yeah, maybe, but Adam Gilliland, I think, has a good car that could very well, on the short run, take away this victory. If we go the next 40 laps green, might be a little bit of a different story, because we saw, especially in that first run, Tony, up to lap 100, around lap 60 or so, Ottinger's car really hit its sweet spot. We're not going to have 50, 60 laps here. We're going to have 40 laps or less to close off this race. I think at that point, I think Adam Gilliland is good. We haven't really seen what Ray Alfala, Chris Overland moved up to position number 4 on that, and Busa in 5th. Yes, we saw them on the start of the race fall back, but did they make an adjustment to swing it the right way in order to vie for this win?
And that's what we're getting ready to find out, Tim, because these teams and these spotters and these drivers have been thinking all this over to know what the car does in the short run, or maybe what they want it to do on the short run. And I think Alfala might have a little bit of an advantage here, but ultimately track position is king. Ottinger has the track position. He's going to be the king on this restart as they double up and get ready to restart here in a lap or so. I still think that Ring Camry is going to be very, very hard to get around, but it's not impossible by any means. Alfala is going to start right on his bumper, but Adam Gilliland, he might be more motivated than anybody at the front of this field to get himself a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series win. It'll be the first one since Daytona of last season. And, man, what it would be for him to have one at a short track and a super speedway.
Ottinger gone on the start. Green flag flies, and Ottinger has got the rest of the field. The 2 of Ray Alfala. Looks like we got one car way slow on the front straightaway.
Oh, that's Chris Overland. Overland, major problems, and he just about got rear-ended by a couple of cars. Somehow, here we go. They're going around. The 37 of Stephen Gilbert is in it. Also in it is the number 13 of Brad Mahar. And 2-3 car incident, all precipitated by the issues of Chris Overland on that restart. We'll bring the caution out once again, and if you're one of these guys that was a lap down, you get the free pass. Byron Daly took the waiver out of that caution flag. Guess what? The 93 is back on the lead lap. Brian Schoenberg is back on the lead lap. And that is a great, great thing for them. They were happy. The problem is they've got a lot of time, or not a lot of time, excuse me, to get a long way back through the field.
Yeah, not quite sure what the 47 was doing there. He put it into a gear that probably it should not have been in, and he backed the field up, and Stephen Gilbert had damage already to the front end of that race car prior to hitting Chris Overland. That didn't help it. The 13 of Brad Mahar also gets damage from that, and then the 37 with that damage just parks it off corner number 2. The 13 gets into him, and he spins around. And Brad has had some reconstructive things going on to his teeth, I guess, according to what Adam Gilliland told me earlier today. And he's been eating applesauce this week, so I'm sure that didn't help the front grille of his race car or the front grille of his virtual teeth either, as he backs up to get his into his pit box, too, because he just missed his pit box.
No, you didn't, Tim. You did not just go there.
Yeah. Adam Gilliland updating me about Brad and what he eats. I'm surprised Adam Gilliland talks about food.
I wasn't even referring to that. I was referring to the grill and the teeth comment.
Well, it's about the same thing.
Well, I'm just saying, whether that was a well-placed pun or not, it became a well-placed pun. So now I'm looking at this race at this point too, Tim, and here's what I've noticed. Remember at the outset we talked about patterns. This race has one of two patterns. It goes either really, really long at the beginning and yellow fever at the end, or yellow fever at the beginning and really, really long at the end. I think we're going to go really, really long at the beginning and yellow fever at the end. So track position now, I don't see it changing a whole lot. I don't see us having major runs between flags because everybody now knows it's go time. You got to get what you can get because the laps are winding down. That's good news if you're up front. That's bad news if you're mired back in this field because your wreck avoidance skills are getting ready to get tested.
Well, we'll see here on this restart what happens if Chris Overland didn't put on a parking lot party for one in corner number 1 there on that restart. We might have seen some green flag racing to it, albeit it's a little too early to tell. We'll find out here in a couple laps as we get ready to go back to green in about 2 laps time. But I think these guys can probably pace themselves and get a few laps in. Do we get to lap 200? Your guess is as good as mine. We might see one more caution at least before we get there. But I think they have it in them to do a little bit of green flag racing here. Everybody just has to get into the right gear and frame of mind.
Well, there's no question they have it in them. They just did it for 150 laps, Tim. But that was 150 opening laps, not the final 30 laps of the race. And again, I think that that urgency is going to play havoc with these teams as far as how they've got to make up spots and got to do it now.
And on the other side of it is you look at the incident system that they do have in this series, Tony, they do have a higher incident point count for incidents that happen after a restart. Not sure if it's 5 or 10 laps, but I know there is a higher penalty on the incident system as well. I'm sure those guys don't have that in their mind right now as they're going for a couple of positions, but it could have very well crossed some of these guys' minds as Danny Hansen has fallen out of the server, so he'll have to reconnect. And he was 1 lap down, so apparently SegPay might need to pay for a bigger internet bill or a nicer internet connection to the server because he's not in the race right now. Ottinger is, and Ottinger's gone. Green flag flies. Adam Gilliland on at the 8.
Gilliland trying to go. Alfala trying to do the same thing. Not quite going to happen for him as those two swap positions over the last restart. Now here comes the field out of turn number 2. This is the precarious spot on the racetrack. They're all able to get through there without incident for the time being as that battle for second continues to heat up off of turn number 4. Now Gilliland has it. Ray Alfala wants it. Look at him peek to the inside in turn 1. Gilliland, though, going to slam the door in his face.
And now Gilliland and the Alfala car, everybody else, they're going to have to try to chase Nick Ottinger because Ottinger is gone by about 8 car lengths in front of this field. Everybody else trying to play chase, top 8 or so single file. Brandon Bowie trying to make up time at the end of this race. The 41 of Sturgis to the outside, and here comes Conti. Mike Conti wants to get into the top 10, and he's got the 5 car underneath the 41. He's bringing Alex Warren and a couple of others along with him.
Remember at the beginning of the race, Tim, we talked about carrying a race car and how you can do it for a while to short track like Richmond? That's exactly what Mike Conti's doing right now. He is carrying that race car. 29 laps to go this time. He's going to get it for all it is worth up to the 10th spot while Alfala rides in 3rd. If Mike Conti wins the championship and everything else goes according to plan, this might be one of the races he looks back on as pivotal in the chase for the title as he has made up countless spots here in just the last 15 laps or so.
Definitely right, Tony, but this race is far from over, and if this thing does stay green, Warren, Bolton, they've both been in front of the 5 car on a long run, albeit they may have made a change to that race car to make it a little bit better. You have to believe that Warren and Bolton might be just a touch better than the 5 on the long run, and I think it might be just a long enough run if we do go green to the finish that Conti is going to have to fight to stay in the top 10 at this point. The way he's been running throughout this race and the way that this race has gone with a couple of long runs in this event. Ottinger leads Adam Gilliland by 0.7 of a second. Alfala continues to hunt the number 8 car, Busa, and PJ Sturgis in 5th.
And what a great run for really both Sturgises for that matter. PJ in 5th, Jake back in 12th as we right on board the Michael J. Johnson machine. There you see Justin Bolton, Alex Warren, everybody immediately ahead of him, including Mike Conti, mired in the traffic. That includes the 54 Brandon Bowie. But you know, you talk about the short run, Tim. I still think that maybe Conti has a little bit of an advantage here because he's got that track position. He is, like I said, carrying that race car. 25 to 30 laps. We saw him get the fall off earlier. That's about the length of this run. I think Conti will be okay if he can continue to soldier on like he has.
He's got Alex Warren right up on his back bumper. Question is, how does the 82 get by without possibly using the bumper, using a little bit of force? Because Conti right now has the 54 just in front of him, and Brandon Bowie, and following Bowie around the racetrack right now is the main performance number 5 as they continue on for position number 10 on lap 177. Ottinger will complete it here, and Ottinger begins to extend the lead a little bit on Adam Gilliland, and it's about 9/10 of a second now. Alfala about 2/10 again behind the number 8, then everybody else riding behind him. Sturgis, great run. Chad Lawton continues to run well, and Rob Ackley in a time that he really needs a good run, sits 23rd in the point standings coming in, runs in 7th in the 22.
Yeah, Ackley, a stellar job for that bunch. They've been inside the top 10 most of the day, for that matter, and really he's running up there with some great company. Chad Lawton, Cody Bias, Brandon Bowie, all right there amongst that number 22 machine. And as you're right on board with him there, you see Chad Lawton immediately ahead of him by about 2-3 car lengths. And if you're chasing the guy that's inside the top 5 in points, it's usually a pretty good day at the racetrack.
Yeah, not too shabby at all, and especially with Rob Ackley on the outside looking in. He's one of those drivers that doesn't want to run in the NASCAR Pro Series, wants to take the winter off, per se, Tony, and run in 2015 in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. This is a run that could very well put himself within the top 20 contention as we head to Darlington and Homestead in the next 2 races. Ottinger continues to extend the lead all by a little bit. Adam Gilliland, if he's saving anything, he's really got to get on the horse because we are under 20 laps to go. He's pulled away from Ray Alfala a little bit by about 3/10 now between the 8 and the 2. Busa pressuring Ray Alfala, and if you're Ray Alfala, you have to really keep that position because there's about 8 points now between a net gain for Ray Alfala and Mike Conti.
Yeah, 8 points, that's 7 for the positions, and the 8th point is for the lap lead that Alfala has had, Conti has not. So Ray, I know, is in damage control mode right now. He realizes the car maybe isn't as fast as he wants it to be, and he needs to do something to pull out a good top 2, top 3 finish, because I think at this point, in the realm of reality, a win is out of the question, but I think a top 2 finish is by all means realistic for Ray Alfala, and he's doing everything he can to try to at least get that.
And at least keep in position number 3 right now, because if he lets Matt Busa pass him, it opens the door for PJ Sturgis, it opens the door for Chad Lawton, and he might have a spot in line in position number 6. So if you're Ray Alfala, you can't let Matt Busa get underneath you, because if not, you're probably falling outside the top 5 at this juncture in the event. When you look at Mike Conti, Conti has Alex Warren behind him, and then he's got a little bit of a gap between himself and Justin Bolton. Even if he does let Bolton pass, he's got a little bit of a gap between Bolton and Michael J. Johnson in these remaining 16 laps of this race. So with Conti and Ray Alfala, they could very well lose a couple of spots here in these next few laps, depending how this thing does go. If this thing does continue out green, they've got a couple of hungry drivers behind each of them. So it could be, right now it's looking like an 8-point gain for Alfala thereabouts as we close in on the final 15.
And that's 8 points more than Mike Conti wanted to give up, I guarantee you, when it came to Richmond. But I think given how that 5 car has run all night long and how the 2 cars run as well, if Conti can come out with only losing 8 points, it's going to have to be considered a little bit of a win, because that car, I thought, Tim, was going to lose that whole bunch of 15, 20 points the way things looked at the very outset. It was not pretty for Mike Conti. They made the right adjustment. He has stepped up to the plate as a driver. And those are the types of days and the types of races you have to be considered championship material. Take a 20th place car or a 25th place car and run top 10 with it. That's the mark of a championship caliber driver. And I think Mike Conti, this one might sit with him for a while if he continues to hold on with the kind of day he's had.
And you look at it though, Tony, Ray Alfala, if he was to gain 8 points each race in the next 3 races, he'd be 1 point shy of the championship. So that's he needs to gain at least 8 points or so in these next 3 races, and Ray Alfala currently doing it if it was to end this way. Be an 8-point difference between 3rd and 10th, with Alfala leading a few laps. At the start of this evening's racing action, 1.3 seconds between Nick Ottinger and Adam Gilliland, and Ottinger about to lap Brad Mahar for the first time this evening. Heavy damage to the number 13 in position number 28. Gilliland second, and actually Gilliland pulling away a little bit more, about 0.6 of a second now between himself and Ray Alfala, and Busa hot on Ray Alfala's heels, and now a little bit of a gap between Busa and PJ Sturgis, who has Chad Lawton on his back bumper, as we will close in here on 10 laps to go.
It's pretty much Nick Ottinger's race to lose at this point. He has been dominant from the word go. I mean, he didn't lead the early laps, but he had a car capable of doing so. Started inside the top 5 in the 4th spot. I mean, let's face it, Tim, he only qualified a 1/4 of a second off the pole. It's not exactly out to lunch by any means. Bided his time, let Matt Busa and Ray Alfala play their games and have their fun up front. He said, all right, time for me to cash this bad boy in and put the ductwork in on it and turn the switch, because it's just about ream time, and I'm going to chill out ahead of the field, and that's exactly what he has done.
And you look at it as well, if he finishes where he is right now, it's a 12-point gain on Michael Conti. He came in 35 back from the number 5 car. He keeps doing that, he's going to be right there in the championship hunt as well. So this thing's going to get exciting if it continues the way it does. With Darlington, a little bit of a wild card. Homestead, 1.5 miles. We all know all 3 of those perform well there. So yeah, it could be very close coming down to the end of it. But Ray Alfala might lose one more before this thing is over, because Matt Busa is pressuring Ray Alfala for position number 3. The 8 car has got away from this battle. It's now a battle for 3rd as we come down to the final 6 laps.
Yeah, and the opening portion of the race, we saw Busa at about this juncture in the run start to hound Alfala for that spot and eventually work his way around him. I think Ray kind of, well, maybe let him go at that point, Tim. But now with less than 5 laps to go coming up on it, I don't see Ray pulling over and letting Busa go. He is going to force him to earn it, every single square inch of it, if he's going to give that spot up. So don't expect Ray to lay over and play dead by any means.
5 laps to go at the stripe here for Nick Ottinger, Adam Gilliland, and Ray Alfala, who tries to hold off the 34 of Busa. PJ Sturgis, great run in position number 5, but he is being chased by Chad Lawton. You look back to the 34 of Matt Busa from the 2 of Ray Alfala. As this time by, they will have 4 laps remaining. They'll come up on Brandon Cattell, and I'm sure Cattell will move out of their way. 34 looked at...
I think Ray says if you're going to do it, I'm going to give you the high line. You can take that all day long. We have seen the high lane be the more difficult place to make passes here at Richmond, albeit not impossible, not very easy by any means either. The lap traffic there as well. Busa caught it in a horrible spot. That's going to give Alfala just a couple of car lengths worth of breathing room, and now with only 3 laps to go, that might be all Ray needed, just to be able to take that small sigh, inhale, and say, all right, I've got this 3rd spot if I can keep it moving lines.
But keep in mind, the 34 of Matt Busa made a wild run at Alex Warren at New Hampshire to close in on what could have been his first win, ended up being in position number 2. So Busa knows how to make things exciting coming to the checkered flag. Keep a half eye on that battle as we watch another victory and closing in on the top 2 in the standings to try to make this thing interesting in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, coming down to 2 races to go. White flag there, last lap for the 05 of Nick Ottinger. Richmond International Raceway has been his playground this evening, has led the most laps and took the lead early in this event through a long green flag run of about 140 some laps. Ottinger was the man to beat, and he continues to be the man to beat at a corner number 4, checkered flag for Nick Ottinger in round 14 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing. Great run for Adam Gilliland in 2nd, Ray Alfala 3rd, Matt Busa in position number 4, and PJ Sturgis completes your top 5. And looking at that one, Tony, look at the battle for 4th coming off the line at a corner number 4. Busa must have got loose or something at a corner number 2. Oh yeah, he did. Busa at a corner number 2, all over the racetrack. Sturgis was to his outside, could not get there. Wow. Busa
Yeah,
saving
Busa.
it too.
Yeah, he tried something. He was on the high side of Alfala, couldn't make it work, and he just simply tried it for all it was worth. And he tried the bottom side attitude with the crossover, and I give the guy credit. He tried. He just about cashed it in and bought the farm, but unable to do so. So he was able to slimly hold on to the 4th spot over PJ Sturgis. But up front, Ottinger, absolute, not quite perfection, I guess, but about as perfect of a race as you needed here in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. And once again, that Ream bunch is going to visit victory lane.
And Ottinger becomes only the 2nd driver to win multiple races this season. The only driver to win more than one race other than Ottinger, Mike Conti. Conti's won 3, Ottinger has won 2. We are going to step away for just a few moments' time, and we will bring you back with the post-race show where we will talk to your top 5 finishers from the Richmond International Raceway. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.
Welcome back to round number 14 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Your winner this evening is Nick Ottinger's 2nd win of the season for the Ream Camry team in the 05 bunch. Adam Gilliland comes home with a very solid 2nd place finish with Ray Alfala, Matt Busa, and PJ Sturgis completing your top 5. Chad Lawton in 6th. Trying to keep his championship hopes alive, what is left of them with 2 races to go. Rob Ackley trying to get closer to the top 20, finishes in position number 7. Cody Baez is 8th, Brandon Bowie 9th, and Michael Conti, your championship leader coming in, finishes in position at number 10. We go down to victory lane with Tony Stevens, and your winner for the 2nd time this season, it's the Ream 05, Nick Ottinger.
Hard to believe it is only the 2nd time Nick Ottinger has visited victory lane, but Nick, you laid it to him here at Richmond. How in the world were you able to do it on a racetrack that demands such perfection through traffic over the long run? I mean, there were so many variables here tonight but looked like none of it fazed you.
It's a lot of hard work from the Gale Force Racing team. Everyone was a part of the 05 Ream machine tonight, and it was great. We worked hard, me, Matt Busa. It was nice to see 4 of our team cars actually finish in the top 10. And I don't know, we needed a rebound after Atlanta, after having a really subpar car. And we're back in it now. I want to make sure we carry this momentum over the next two races, because I think we have a really good chance.
I was going to say you have a huge increase, or excuse me, whatever. Yeah, I guess you're reeling Mike Conti, I guess is what I'm trying to say, as far as points go, put you back within the realm of reasonable. Is this something you can repeat the next 2 races to where you can gain the right amount of points on Mike Conti to where maybe it is 13, 14 points at a swipe, or is it going to be one of those deals where he needs to have some bad luck, from your opinion?
I feel confident in this GFR team. We're going into 2 real strong tracks for myself. One that we won at, and one also that we had a chance to win at the finale at Homestead. So we're going to really good tracks. It was nice to get back in victory lane. I know it's the second time, but we had multiple chances to get in victory lane this season. But I mean, we've always been a contender in most of these races, and that's really all you can ask for. It's just about putting the whole season together. And so far, Mike's done a better job at that. But we still got 2 races left, and I plan as much as we can for this 05 green Toyota Camry to go out there and win and lead every lap.
Well, we certainly look forward to it. It's going to be entertaining with you, Ray Alfalla, and Mike Conti all thrashing it out for the championship. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Darlington. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Tony.
That is Nick Ottinger, winner here tonight at Richmond. And Tim, the guys that were chasing him, well, they thought they might have a shot, but looked like it was simply pipe dreams here tonight.
And Adam Gilliland was the first driver to chase the 05 across the line. And Adam, it looked like you had a better short-run car, at least in the first long green flag run. And then after the pit stop, it looked like you had a better short-run car than Nick Ottinger. What happened after the caution flag?
I don't know if the tire curing after that second caution there made the car a little bit worse in the long run. But Nick was really fast, and I think I had a second-place car. Wish I'd had something for him, but those guys are really stout, and I'm actually really ecstatic to get out of there with a second.
Let's talk about this team, because I know this team is really starting to gel. You had yourself, Cody Bias, Alex Warren, and Justin Bolton all within the top 12 this evening. But for most of the evening, you guys ran within the top 10 on that green flag run. How key is it now to be able to get this team really hitting on all cylinders heading in to the final 2 races?
Well, it's huge. This last month has been great. It's been an honor to drive these cars. They're so fast each and every week. And Cody and everyone back at CBR do a great job. It's just been a lot of fun. We're gelling, like you said, and I can't wait to get to Darlington in 2 weeks.
You moved up to 9th in points last week. Obviously, with this race, you're probably going to move up a little bit closer up the standings. What is your goal for points for this number 18?
Well, hoping to get the Gary Mercer Trucking Chevrolet in the top 5 in points. He's been really wanting to get a top 5 in points for him, but I don't know if that's reachable. I definitely think 6th or 7th might be, but the guys up there from 2nd through 6th have such a gap over me that it's going to be hard to make up. But that's one thing for sure, is I'm going to try my butt off.
Before we let you go, Darlington is a very tricky racetrack. Have you done any testing with the current tire, with the current car? And what do fans expect in 2 weeks' time when we head to Darlington, a track that could very well be a wild card, per se, in these final few races?
Expect typical Darlington, just like you'd see in real life. Crazy, anything can happen. You're right up against the wall rim riding. It's going to be very easy for someone to break their car. I personally have not done any testing. When we get to testing there in a few days, I anticipate us having some pretty good speed. Hopefully a track like Atlanta, where we had some good speed, can translate in the setup. So, but it's going to be a fun race. It's going to be difficult to pass, just like it was tonight. And all the guys you in the race should have a good show.
Congratulations on the great run. That's Adam Gilliland coming home in position at number 2. And I believe that Tony Stevens has caught up with our 3rd place driver, a driver who is going to try to make things interesting when it comes to this championship picture, Ray Alfalla in the 2.
Certainly have caught up with Ray Alfalla, and while this is maybe not the best of runs for you, Ray, 3rd place certainly is nothing to shake your head at. Close in on Mike Conti as far as the point standings are concerned, and you get yourself another podium to add under your belt. Is this the type of performance that you're going to have to win a championship this year, or do you need to step it up another notch?
Yeah, the main performance Simpedal's car was pretty fast. It seemed to be running 3rd every single week. I think that's 3 in a row. That's not bad though. You know, if I could finish there all season long, it's pretty much a championship guarantee. But that's very difficult to do. I thought we were going to have a lot more speed with the pole run, and The car felt really good for 10 or 20 laps, and then just got way too tight. You know, I'm not really sure. We made some tire pressure adjustments on pit road, and that it didn't really change the car much. I think it was a spring and cross deal. But you know, we had the hashtag #GetWellSoon BB33. Brian Blackbird's still recovering from his injuries, and he raced again tonight. And so good job to him. And you know, we'll go on to Darlington. Like you said, we did make some ground in the championship. I think we're about 17 back now, so it's pretty good news for tonight.
The setup issue you talk about, Ray, it seems like teams tend to go one direction or one trend whenever they build their setups, whatever that is, whether that's a big right rear spring or gearing it around about a certain size bar around the front end, whatever that trend is that teams tend to go with. Is this something that concerns you going forward in the final two races, or was this an anomaly for Richmond where the car got that tight that it just didn't suit your driving style?
I'm not sure. Like, you know, the last time Richmond had this low grip, because we were running the day track and it's normally the night track. So the last time I had this low grip was back with the old tire model. And, I actually liked the way that felt compared to this. It was really loose all the time, and this was kind of just low grip. And it seems like there was no grip in the front or the rear, but it was just more extreme. And for us, the front end was kind of just not there. As far as what speed, you know, the most concerning part, I guess, is you don't really know how fast anybody is before the race. You know, you kind of try to ask around, and you know, some people will tell you that they're running this and they might be running faster or slower. You know, it used to be to where everybody just kind of knew how fast people ran, and especially when the NIS series run, like the race the week before, we get a good measure of how fast people are. But last week it was Richmond night, which is not even close to the same. It's got way more grip than we ran tonight, so it's just not, you know, there's like no way to know how fast people are until you pretty much join the race.
There's no way to know who's going to win a championship this year either until we run the final two races at Darlington and Homestead, Miami. Congratulations, Ray. A solid podium run tonight in third. We'll see you, I'm sure, in a couple of weeks.
Thanks. I also got to thank Progi Consulting and U-Block Hosting, and also all the pterodactyls over on the on TeamSpeak, and Landon Harrison for helping out with the setup this week. We were going to be a lot worse if it wouldn't have been for him, so thanks a lot to Landon.
That's Ray Alfala. Tim Terry standing by with our fourth place driver.
And our fourth place driver this evening is Matt Busa. And Matt, let's talk about the run in the final lap or so. You were chasing Ray Alfala, and then you almost lost position number 4. Talk about that last lap and a half or so.
Yeah, I was trying to set him up for a good while there, the whole run pretty much. And I got a run off turn 4, and he blocked low, so thought I might try the high side. And the only way it would have worked is if I just matted it off that turn 2, and I tried and barely hung onto that thing, and lucky to still hang on to 4th there.
And a pretty good night overall. Started on the outside of the front row and then was battling for that third place spot at the end. Came home with position number 4. You have to be happy with your run this evening at Richmond.
Oh yeah, for sure. Me and Nick did a lot of testing this week, and I'm glad it paid off with, I think we got all 7 GFR cars in the top 21 and 4 in the top 9 or something like that. And Nick with the win, that's huge for his confidence going for his title. And for me as well, I'm on a little bit of a streak here. If you take out Indy, it's like 4 or 5 top 6s. And for me, my goal is top 5 in points, and I think I'm within 5 points of that now, so almost got it.
Yeah, you mentioned pouring the pressure on. Tied for 6th place in the point standings unofficially, and as you mentioned, 5 points out of Chris Overland for position number 5 with 2 weeks to go. Darlington Raceway, what do we expect out of that race? Have you guys done any testing there yet? And obviously it has shown this week that you guys have put a lot of work into these race cars with all your cars up near the front of the field. What do you expect out of the Darlington Raceway, and do we see the 34 running up there? Do you like that racetrack?
Yeah, Darlington's a really good track for both me and Nick, I know for sure. Nick loves that place, so I'm sure he's gonna, especially with the title and within his reach, we're gonna put a lot of time in for Darlington and for Homestead as well. So I'd expect the all 7 GFR cars to be looking strong these last 2 weeks. And for Richmond here, I gotta thank Adam Benefiel and Real Speed Dynamics. They hopped on board, and they're actually going to be my sponsor for the last 3 races of the year. And then thanks to Gale Force Racing for all the hard work and the great team chemistry we got going. And hopefully at the end of the year it pays off big.
You mentioned all that hard work. Before we let you go, for those that are watching maybe for the first time or might not know a whole lot about the iRacing service, how many hours do you guys put in on average a week to get ready for these races in the 2-week span that we do have between these races?
During the summer, I'd say I put in, like, per day, maybe an hour, hour and a half. And now that I'm in college, I got actually a lot more time with all the downtime between classes and stuff, and there's nothing to do till night. So here for Richmond, almost 2 hours every day I put in. I love this track.
A lot of time put in, Tony. 2 hours a day for Matt Busa and that team. That's a lot of effort, and it shows here for the 34, finishing in position number 4. I believe you've caught up with another driver that had an awesome run here this evening, the 57 of PJ Sturgis.
Yeah, PJ been good all night long here at Richmond. What was the difference for the 57 much here tonight compared to weeks prior?
Well, luckily for us, I think just like Matt, we've had some really good runs going every week except for Indy. So again, it came down to us two tonight. He beat me by, couldn't have been more than a foot, but it was a good solid run. I get to see another top 5 for us. So finally got into the top 20 in points tonight, and hopefully get closer to securing another DWC license for next season.
Was just going to ask you about that. The first 2 races of the season, you started, or didn't start, you finished dead last, 43rd. 2 points after 2 races. Not exactly the hole someone wants to climb out of. How have you climbed out of it to get yourself, as you said, now into the top 20, in a position that can lock you in for 2015?
Well, to be honest, I really don't know. After those first 2 races, I pretty much thought my season was over. So from there, I was like, you know what? I'll just go out and I'm going to race hard and clean and race, have fun every week. And I don't care what the result is. And I guess just a change of attitude helps out, and just keeping the car clean and finishing races can do wonders for you instead of going head on to the wall like I did first 2 races of the year.
Yeah, head on the wall is usually a bad thing, DJ. Well, 2 races to go. Darlington and Homestead, good luck to you, and I'm sure we'll see you having probably very similar runs there as well.
All right, thanks, guys. I'd like to thank my team, Last Row Motorsports and NX and Sim Racing and V Racing. Have some great sim equipment for everyone to check out, and hopefully we'll see you all at Darlington.
That's PJ Sturgis, finishes 5th here tonight, Tim.
And Tony, looking back on this race, it may very well be the race that shapes the championship when you see Ray Alfala close into within 17 points, and 4 points behind Ray Alfala is Nick Ottinger. This one is going to go down to the wire. 21 points between the top 3 with 2 races to go. If you're Nick Ottinger, that's a pretty manageable margin.
It's very manageable. It's not, well, we thought it wasn't likely coming into tonight that Conti would run as badly as he did. He was able to salvage a top 10 finish out of it. However, I think it's something that he needs to look at. And say you go into a race, you lead the most laps, you win the race, and Conti finishes 5th or 6th, that's 10 points right there. So that's very, very manageable for either Ray Alfala or Nick Ottinger. And I think it puts a whole new spin on things, especially going to Darlington, being that it's going to be one of the wild cards of the 2014 season. And coming in the next to last race, I think that's even cooler. 2 weeks from now is a race you do not want to miss, no matter what.
Yeah, it's going to be wild, these next 2 races. 2 weeks from now, September 23rd, it's a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series round number 15 as we close in on what is left of this season. And it's going to be wild between those guys. And you look at the 20th place position, Kenny Humpy not here this evening. He's only got 11 points on Peter Bennett in 21st, who stays in position number 21. Sturgis moves up, solidifies his spot a little bit more. This is going to be exciting coming down to the wire, not only for the win in the championship and $10,000 in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, but also the top 20 and who returns in 2015. That's going to do it for us here this evening. So for Ian Bushing, Zach Stanko, everybody in the New York studio, Ilka Happala, Chuck Johnson, Matt Racing Kid Thomas, Tony Stevens, Joe Cortez, who's somewhere in Ohio. My name is Tim Terry. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we say, let's go racing from the Darlington Raceway. Keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.
What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.